Pixar has been putting out some not great stuff lately. That's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. Soul was good until it wasn't. Onward was generic. Luca, I didn't see Luca, but I heard a few positive things. So maybe they're not outright terrible. They've just lost that spark that they used to have. I'm still holding out hope for Lightyear. But before we get to that moneymaker, we have to talk Panda. That's right. Today I'm reviewing Pixar's newest installment, Turning Red. This movie has had very little marketing. I've seen the trailer maybe once and maybe 2 YouTube ads, but that's it. It's not nothing, but a new Pixar movie was once something that would grab hold of everyone's attention for a whole weekend or even 2, like every Marvel movie seems to do nowadays. But now they just kinda come and go. But on top of the marketing, there were some other things going around about this movie. One article used some choice words in describing its themes, and I won't go into it too much here, but it seemed that this movie might make a few people uncomfortable, to put it lightly. And I never gave this much thought, I just assumed people were being weird about it, like people tend to do in 2022. Then I sat down to watch the movie and, okay, I can see where they're coming from. So Turning Red follows Malin, I think I said that right. She's turning 13 and ready to be a woman. Okay, pretty standard stuff so far. But then you get hit with the pacing. Sweet Jesus, is this movie fast. They cram 20 minutes into about 30 seconds of narrating, 2000s nostalgia, character introductions, all this stuff. Immediately this shot up some red flags. The pacing of this movie is super fast in most places. Subtlety? Never even heard of her. Some kids might enjoy the breakneck speed, but if you're a parent looking for something to fall asleep to, this is not it. And I'm not really digging the narrator stuff either. Whatever happened to show don't tell. Not to mention, Malin basically lays out her entire character and its development for the rest of the movie in the first 5 minutes. She basically says, "I'm Malin Lee, and my parents are strict and don't let me be myself, but that's okay, all I care about is being perfect for them." I mean, could they telegraph that more? And could it be a more basic character arc? I don't think so. It's the same goddamn message we've heard 1,000 times before. I don't know about you, but I want a kids movie where the conflict isn't with the parents. Frozen, Moana, Tangled, Coco, Inside Out, Luca, Brave. Fucking Brave. At least they didn't fall into the dead parent cliche. I get it, those kinds of households are common nowadays. It's important for representation. But all this focus on one kind of story is a bit exhausting. And I was hoping Turning Red would finally shake that trend, but I guess not, it's fine. So I've been a little bit more negative than I wanted to be starting out, so I apologize. Let's make it worse, shall we? So, the surface plot of this movie is about Malin turning into a red panda when she feels a powerful emotion. And it's starting way earlier than her parents thought, she has a destiny, etc, etc, etc. Not to discredit its story too much, but it is pretty much what you'd expect from a synopsis like that. She has trouble hiding it at school, her friends find out, the Canadian government apparently doesn't even exist. You get the idea. Now, the heavy metaphorical stuff. Okay, for the first 30 minutes or so of this film, it's a very straightforward metaphor for, well, you know, the red panda is a metaphor for puberty. And it's not something typically tackled in mainstream media like this. And you might think I'm projecting something. I'm not. The directors have come out and said, yes, this is on purpose. It seems pretty obvious from the get-go. And they don't pull any punches either. You know, they talk about strippers, pads, special time, whatever. You know, that's whatever. This film is clearly geared towards Malin's age group and gender. I mean, that doesn't mean that all boys are going to be uncomfortable watching this or anything. It's just something to keep in mind when you go into this movie. I'm a reviewer. It's my job to tell you whether you should or shouldn't watch it. And I think you should, even though it may not appeal to your specific demographic. If you've seen that one season 1 episode of Star vs. Muberty, you've essentially seen this movie. I actually really appreciate that Pixar is willing to tackle such a bold topic. It is kind of exceptional. So, I really like the concept, but the execution, in my opinion, is just really bad. I've already talked about the horrible pacing, but some of the scenes in this movie are just pure, unfiltered chaos. Okay, maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is to show how chaotic this process can be, but I just found it super hard to sit through some of those most chaotic parts. There's a lot of crying, screaming, destruction. Like, we're at near boss baby levels of that shit.
He's like a little boss baby, like a little man.
And I get it, it is somewhat accurate in its portrayal of someone going through puberty for the first time. Well, for the only time, I hope. I just wish they toned it down a bit, you know? Because I can't imagine sitting in a theater for this and not having to leave to take a breather. By the way, this is on Disney Plus, not in theaters. I think it was the right move. Maybe I'm just getting too old for these kind of movies, but I'm not gonna lie, I scrubbed through a lot of this movie. I'm not a big fan of crying, moaning, screaming. You can leave that at the door, thanks. Subtlety is not a thing in this movie. Okay, so now on to what I did like about the movie. There's actually quite a lot that I liked. After all the liar revealed stuff is over, which by the way is in this movie and is infuriating, after all that stuff is over, this movie becomes somewhat enjoyable. Mei's friends are actually just the best side characters ever. It's a balanced friend group, and an accurate one at that. One of them is a literal psychopath, and I love it. 100% Grenda from Gravity Falls. And once the film moves away from the really heavy metaphor stuff and the pacing slows down a bit, I found myself actually enjoying the movie. They drop the metaphor in favor of some more magic stuff, and I guess that stuff is just more my speed. The beginning of this movie is like vomit-inducing with the pacing, but the ending is actually pretty great. It's a good climax with some good visuals and scale, and it's something I would have loved to have seen in the theater. By now you've realized that my opinion of Pixar's latest outing is incredibly inconsistent. That's because the longer the movie goes on, the better it gets. The pacing gets better, the characters actually start to have some depth, etc. I'm not gonna lie, if you know what parts to scrub through, you might enjoy this thing. And there's one article that talks about this movie that I pretty much completely agree with. It's this one. Turning red is a great and important concept to show, but the execution is just not great. I've also seen some people saying that they hate the character design, you know, the CalArts, Bean Mouth. I hate that argument. We could go on for hours about it. Honestly, it doesn't bother me that much. You can tell they at least cared a little bit for the story and didn't. Wow, that cat from Toy Story 4 looks so realistic. We need to focus on this instead of the story. Thanks. So at least the story here is somewhat strong, despite its execution being a little sloppy. In the end, guys, Turning Red was a heavy-handed mess that accidentally itself into a good movie with some cool visuals. And it did have some good representation, I have to give it up for that. Would I recommend you watch this movie? Well, yeah, I would check out the second half. You can skip a lot of the first half, it's pretty generic. I mean, if you relate to the demographic that they're showing in the movie, you would relate to it more and you'd get more out of it. If not, don't expect it to really cut you that deep. I don't know, everyone's different. This review felt a little chaotic, only because I've never had to think about a script for a movie like this before. Originally, the script was way more negative and ranty, and I had to change it and water it down a little bit. Because the movie isn't bad, but the first time you watch it, it just doesn't have that, I don't know, it leaves you a little confused, I guess. But this movie does have that Pixar flair. You know the one. You know, after you leave, you're like, huh, you know what, that really sort of changed me a little bit. I feel like I watched a good movie. I don't know. So go into this if you're curious, not more like expecting a masterpiece. I respect the story they're trying to pull off with it. It's a bold one. I just think they could have done a much better job in execution. So that was my conflicted review of Pixar's Turning Red. Have you seen this movie? Do you agree with my opinion, or do you have something different? Let's talk in the comments and on my new subreddit, r/thecoffeehouseyt. Thank you guys so much for watching this unstructured review. We'll circle back next week for some more TV and movie reviews and news. Peace out.